In this short video, I'm going to show you about how do you control temperatures with LLMs. So you're going to understand what is temperature, how it works, when to use low temperature, when to use high temperature, and how to set it up in both Make and N8N. And towards the end of this video, we're going to look at a few examples. And without further ado, let's jump right in. So first, what is temperature? So temperature is a setting. In some models, it goes from 0 to 1, but in others, it goes up to 2. But basically, you can think of it as a parameter that controls the randomness in AI responses. So think of it like a creativity dial, wherein a low temperature, usually 0 to 0.3, indicates something that's going to give you more focused, predictable, and results that usually play it safe, whereas high temperatures, usually even zero point 0.7 and above, although over 1 give you even more creative, varied, and experimental results. So, how does it work? The AI predicts next words using probabilities, right? So, temperature adjusts how it chooses. So, a low temperature will always pick the most likely word. A temperature of 1 or sometimes zero point 0.7 onwards chooses more balanced selections, and temperatures higher, which are 1 and above up to 2, usually even unlikely words get a fair shot. And this is how it leverages the creative or varied or experimental nature of choosing higher temperatures for when you want creative results. So now we're going to look at when do you use low temperature and when do you use high temperatures. So, when do we use low temperatures? Usually, when you need less creativity and more factual answers, maybe code, mathematics, data extraction, or analysis. Maybe you want consistent formatting, or you want to use it for some legal, medical, or technical writing. But one thing to note here is you always want to cross check facts, ask for citations or references, and even then it can make mistakes, and you want it to also avoid hallucinations. We'll talk more about this and how using a RAG might be a better solution based on your requirements. But basically, you want to use low temperatures when you need a low level of creativity and a higher level of predictability. Next up, so when do we use high temperature? Is basically when you want to brainstorm ideas, you need out of the box thinking, maybe for creative writing, marketing copy variations, or you just want to break out of any predictable patterns. That's when using a high temperature really comes in handy. So basically, you use low temperature when you want predictability, and you use high temperature when you want creativity. So now I'm going to show you how do you set up temperature for both ChatGPT and for Claude in both Make and N8N, and we're going to look at a few examples. So if I come into N8N, I create a new AI agent. We have our chat trigger set up by default. If we come into our chat model, going to choose OpenAI, going to choose my connection. And if we come in here, you'll see the sampling temperature under the options. So zero point 0.7 is usually like a balanced temperature. We're going to set this to 0.2. And if I come into our example section, I'm going to ask it to write a tagline for a coffee shop. And if we come out of here, hit save, click open chat. And now if I enter this, write a tagline for a coffee shop, it's going to run and it says brewed to perfection, served with passion, which is a pretty good line. And now if we just tested it with a higher temperature, we're going to come back in, we're going to change our sampling temperature to say 1. And this is often like trial and error. You've got to find your sweet spot and what works for your use case. But this is how you can play with temperature to see like whether you want more predictability and simplicity, or do you want more variations and more creativity. So if we paste the same prompt in again or the same chat message again, this time, when the AI agent is running, it says brewed awakenings in every cup. Now, this is a very simple prompt, but as your prompts become more complex, you'd clearly be able to see the difference in outputs. This was a simple example, and how do we set this up in N8N, like how do we do it for the OpenAI chat model. And similarly, if I remove our OpenAI chat model and I wanted to do it with Claude instead, I just come into Claude and under the options, similarly choose the sampling temperature, set a low sampling temperature, see what my response looks like, set a high sampling temperature, see what that response looks like, and then you just have more options to choose from and you can pick the best one. And now similarly, if we wanted to do this in Make, I'm just going to come up to Make. I'm going to choose, say, Claude. I'm going to choose create a prompt. I don't have my connection set up, so we're going to add a new connection. Just copy the API key, hit save. And now you can see that all our models load in here. So if I choose, say, the Claude Sonnet 4, if I come down to advanced settings and scroll here, you'll see the temperature parameter, and it says higher temperatures generate more creative and generative responses, for example, 0.8. Lower temperatures generate more analytical multiple choice responses, for example, 0.2. And they say the default is 1. So what we can do is we can try 0.2. We can copy our prompt or message from the previous examples, or we can choose this one, so which says write a subject line for a webinar about productivity. So we're going to come in here, we are going to add our new message, we're going to set our max tokens to 500, we're going to set our role, user, message, type text, and inside the text we're going to place this, hit save, save our automation, and hit run once. So you can see our Claude model is running and it says unlock your peak performance, 5 science-backed strategies to boost your daily productivity. So that's one output we get with a low temperature. If we came in here and set a high temperature, say we set it to 1, hit save, we save our module, we hit save, and now if we run this automation, you will see we get unlock your peak performance. I guess it gave us the same response, but let us try running this again. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just seems to give us the same response again. Yeah, I guess it just seems to give us the same response again, but you get the gist of it. Basically, this is how you control temperature. These are very simple and straightforward prompts. Obviously, the larger the text size you're working with and the prompt that you're looking at, it would vary in its output considerably. And the key takeaway here is always experiment with different models and always experiment with different temperatures, and set low temperatures when you want more consistent or predictable outputs, and use higher temperatures when you want more creative outputs. One thing I've noticed though is, especially when you're using this for marketing, because you sometimes want to be clear and not clever, it might make sense to set a lower temperature because you will get clearer language and messaging, which is sometimes usually good for marketing rather than trying to sound too fancy and not getting clearer responses. So that's something just to test out and experiment with. You have the options, it's just one setting you need to tweak, and you can always pick whichever output you like better. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.